are now tuned in to the Lineman Lounge, the world's thickest sports podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Evo.
Come on, Stan, bitches. This is the Lineman Lounge. Mike, that's Evo. Punxsutawney Phil's a lion, bitch. And the offseason starts right now. Evo, my man, how you doing? It is shitty weather out here in Ohio. It's supposed to be getting nicer. It's not. It's snowing. It's snowing right now. And I don't like it because I am sick as fuck. I got my Vicks. Might be taking a couple hits of this during the show. I got a rescue inhaler because I also have walking pneumonia. But I am fucking ready to rock and roll today's show. My man, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right, and maybe we might have some technical difficulties today if anyone notices, and we're gonna attribute that to the weather out there. But yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. I'm tired and just grinding, working and working out and stuff like that. I'm actually can't really tell. I'm wearing a shoulder harness underneath this hoodie right now. I have a rotator cuff injury, I believe. Don't know if it's a tear yet. Still have to wait a couple weeks before potentially getting like a MRI or something like that. But yeah, been getting after it hard in preparations for the combine, which is coming up here pretty darn quick.
Couple weeks.
Yeah, combine starts Feb 27th, so I'm got my flights booked to Indianapolis to make sure that I can show off for all the teams. I don't think they're going to have me actually inside the stadium or anything like that, but still planning on at least getting a 40 out for you guys and maybe some other events. But I got to heal up first a little bit just because I've been grinding so hard.
Tough work. It's tough work getting ready for the NFL, getting ready for the combine, because make or break there, man. A lot of these guys will go out there and put up fantastic numbers, and you can be a projected 6th round pick. You go out there and you put up athletic freak numbers, you're in 3rd, 2nd round. We've seen guys fly up as high as the 1st round. Now, typically that doesn't pay off for these teams when you are taking a guy that's just an athletic freak and jumps up the board. But that's what they want. That's what this event is all about. So the Underwear Olympics coming up in a couple weeks. I'm pumped for it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is that realistic scouting of these guys, it should be coming from game film. What you see on the field is what you can kind of expect from them, and that's what you should be expecting when you're drafting a player. Then you have things like the Senior Bowl or Shrine Bowl or different bowls and stuff like that you can go to. And
good competition.
Yeah, getting to see the player in practice and stuff like that is good as well, but it should not be like an entirety to your process of evaluating a player. Though we have seen since the Senior Bowl, a bunch of players make very drastic jumps in draft projections right now. And then when it comes to the combine, you're talking about just pure statistical numbers of physical events that have some relation to football but aren't the real deal. And so this is more like, the scouting combine, other than the interview process, it realistically should be a scout's like 5% of their, evaluation. So if a guy is making a huge jump because of combine numbers, it's usually not a smart move. But then again, like, brought up, you can have guys make big rises in the combine. You can have guys not go to the combine who turn out to be really fucking good. I mean, we see it every year with UDFAs and stuff like that. Adam Thielen's the guy from Minnesota that I always like to talk about. But one this year, Kobe Turner, defensive lineman for third round pick for the Rams. Typically guys that are going to the combine, they are looked at as being, 5th round better type guys, definitely draftable. Yeah. But normally not too many UDFAs unless they are physically limited, like based on size or something like that, where you can't change that.
Or you catch an injury at the combine, you might deal with some stuff there. But
you have an Ivan Pace for the Vikings this last year. He goes to the combine, obviously doesn't get drafted, but turns out to be a really good player, and it's probably because of his size. He's short. It's going to happen. There's going to be guys there that aren't going to perform well and will be stars in the NFL. There's going to be guys who perform there who are performing really well, who are going to be duds. So combine is always so fun to watch for me. It's just another step in the right direction of the NFL offseason. But kind of the bigger thing with it, in my opinion, is that the legal tampering period for the NFL starts March 11th. The illegal tampering period absolutely kicks off at the combine. You have all the GMs and head coaches and agents in rooms and at bars talking. This is where the real tampering starts. And that's where you're going to start to see a lot of steam and heat pick up on offseason moves, trades, potential pending free agents that may or may not go back to their team. What's going to happen with them. And for me, obviously, it's very exciting because right now I'm on the precipice of a monumental change for my team with the Vikings. Kirk Cousins or no Kirk Cousins. That's he's one of the top rated free agents in or going into free agency this year, and I hope he has a fantastic rest of his career somewhere else.
Somewhere else. That's a big key for your team. You guys are ready to move on. I don't know if Kirk is ready to move on. He was talking about the opportunity to play for Bill Belichick before, but I think the writing's starting to kind of be on the wall. I think Kirk knows that as well, that he's not long for Minnesota, unless you guys just absolutely cannot make something work out where you can get a quarterback that you guys really, really want. But I mean, Kirk had a great run there. I'm not thrilled with our quarterback situation in the slightest. Because Deshaun Watson is once again possibly headed back to court, not for anything new, hopefully not for anything new, but from the prior cases, there's apparently some additional evidence. His lawyer, Rusty Hardin, told him not to answer certain questions in a deposition. Obviously, that's what your lawyer's supposed to tell you to do. Don't fucking answer this. It can incriminate you. So that makes sense. But when you do that, you could possibly have to go back and do another deposition. There are crazy reports saying that he could have possibly tried to coerce somebody with mental disabilities. I don't know how high what that scale is there. Yeah, it's not good. I'm not excited about it. I really hope he didn't fucking do that. But if he did, they should bury him under the fucking jail. If he didn't, and this is the same old stuff that happened before, it's still gross, but there's nothing the NFL can do, and we really should stop fucking talking about this and move on. Because this story, every time it's brought up, it doesn't just affect Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns. It affects all of the victims and who are a part of this case. If this is if it's nothing new, let's move on so people can actually fucking move on with their lives. I don't know what else to say about that situation. It's tough.
I know we've gone over it before, and I have been of that like mind of pushing the shit off to the side and just forgetting about it. Are there any potential outs of that contract if shit happens, or are you just fucked?
No, there are no potential outs except for a trade. And I don't know, did you see you watch Get Up at all? Have you seen Get Up in a while?
No,
are you familiar
in a while
with Mike Tannenbaum?
Yes.
Would you say that his ability to evaluate quarterback talent is a high level or a low level?
I honestly have no idea.
Well, I mean, this is the guy that drafted the Jets quarterbacks, basically.
Okay. So it's not great.
So it's not good. He made a suggestion on Get Up that the Browns should offer Deshaun Watson and a second-round pick to the Giants to go and get Danny Dimes. I don't even know how to approach that comment or that. How can you get on national TV and make a statement so stupid? Because say what you will about Deshaun Watson, love him, hate him. He's a damn better quarterback than fucking Danny Dimes is. Jesus Christ, pussy just come out of everywhere.
Yeah, it's tough around these parts. I guess I don't. Part of me would do that.
The only reason that would be a good decision is to offload Deshaun's contract, bring in Danny Dimes, and then the money saved when you make the cut of Danny Dimes is hundreds of millions of dollars in dead cap that you save.
That's the thing is that Danny Dimes' contract, this is like kind of the last year before you really have outs. So, I mean, you can definitely have worse quarterback play in the NFL than Danny Dimes.
Yeah.
But for me, trading Deshaun Watson and a second for pennies doesn't really matter. Like, to get him off of the books, the move was bad, and it could be so detrimental to this team in the long term that having the opportunity to kind of reset that right away would be really
nice.
Yeah.
Really fucking nice.
Yeah. I wonder if the league, like, if he were to go to jail or something like that, get fully convicted and all that shit, if they would, do one of their things like they've done in the past where they kind of create rules on the spot. They did some of that with Adrian Peterson and the whole switch situation where they were able to, add, basically they had this commissioner's exempt list, which apparently was there, but had never been used. And now it's just used all the time. And it basically abstained the team from having financial repercussions from him while offsetting the contract to some extent. Like, weird shit. And like, I could see them potentially trying to do that.
I mean, didn't they do something with Henry Ruggs' contract similar when he was convicted and is now to jail after the car accident?
I have no idea. It's possible. I know that he was put on that exempt list right away, and maybe he remains to this day. But I don't know. Like, it sucks. It sucks that you're in that situation as a fan of your team, to have a quarterback who is getting paid an exorbitant amount of money. And yeah, he has potential, but I just, at this point, I don't know if that's happening. I like looking towards the future so much more in the youth quarterback market. I mean, honestly, this past NFL season, since we can look back now, it was kind of refreshing to see a league that is typically so deprived of really good quarterback play to have a good crop of quarterbacks out there, but B, so many backups come in. And yeah, it was for short amounts of time for most of them, but a lot of guys play some competitive football, and you can kind of see how you can get by with less than an elite quarterback if you're able to scheme around it appropriately and whatnot. So, it gives you a little bit of hope of, running with someone who's not elite and potentially developing things like that, which again is kind of what I'm hoping my Vikings end up doing. I like Kirk. I like what he's done. He's brought in 2018 to a Super Bowl ready roster, a team that lost in the NFC Championship the year before with Case Keenum. Came in 2018, big contract, Super Bowl ready-made roster. He's made the playoffs twice and only won one playoff game. And you can't build a roster around that contract. And that's, I guess this is a little bit of a segment, what we want to see for the future of our teams here.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
It's for me, financially, it is untenable to bring Kirk Cousins back, regardless of his level of play. The only way that you bring a guy back like that at that age, coming off of that injury, is if it is an elite top 3, top 5 quarterback in the league, in my opinion. You don't have this question with Mahomes, with the Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, any of that. You bring them back at the contract that they need in order to play there. But for Kirk, he is a top 12-ish quarterback, potentially. He was having maybe statistically his best year ever last year, but that could be the peak. We see it with some of these older quarterbacks, a Peyton Manning, where, he's like up for MVP in Denver, and the next year he ends up getting benched for Brock Osweiler because he fell off a cliff. You've got...
He wasn't benched. He was hurt.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Either way, like, you've got Phillip Rivers who falls off a cliff, and it just happens. It will happen. Having a Tom Brady playing into their 40s is not the norm. And it sounds like the type of contract that Kirk Cousins wants will bring him into his age 39 to 40 season. And at the type of money that he's looking for, especially with guarantees, it's just not tenable. And so, like, I wish him the best. He's a good dude. He's a good quarterback. He can definitely help some team that is ready to make a push, but my team isn't there. We have a lot of holes on this roster. We need to reset that market. And I think the signs have been out there for a while. I mean, they turned down his contract offers to the team last year, which is a clear signal that they're ready to move on. And the team is starting to make some of those tough decisions on veterans that are big time Minnesota veterans and move on from them. They did it with Adam Thielen last year. They did it with Eric Kendricks last year. They're starting to turn that page. And the fact that the reports came out that last year the Vikings had made an aggressive attempt to move up in the draft in order to get Anthony Richardson, as far as three first-round picks, extra picks beyond that, and Danielle Hunter in order to move up with the Colts to get Anthony Richardson. To think that they wouldn't be in the same space to do that this year with maybe even a little bit more gusto, because we definitely could be moving into the draft without a quarterback. Like that's a very high likelihood.
Where are you guys picking right now?
11.
God, to go to 1, you'd have to do the Ricky Williams
out of
deal.
Question.
You'd have to do the Ricky Williams deal. Every pick and probably a player still.
Yeah,
get up to 1.
It's out of the question to move to 1. With the Bears being at 1, I don't think the Bears would trade within the division for a quarterback, an obvious quarterback pick. 2 is not super likely. I feel like you have to reset the quarterback situation there in Washington with the new ownership, new coaching group. Yeah. Even though I really like Sam Howell, and that's another conversation. Like, apparently Sam Howell right now draft compensation to trade for him is somewhere in the 4 to 5 range, 4th or 5th round.
Bad.
Absolutely tenable. He's got 2 years left on his rookie deal. And he, for a long time this last season, was leading the league in passing. Yeah. He can definitely put up volume. The problem is that he finished the year even touchdown to interception, but he was also playing behind a junior varsity high school offensive line. So it's tough to do that. So that's a guy that I would definitely bring in as like a bridge type project. But
also there's Gardner Minshew out there.
Well, this is my hope, is that we say bye-bye to Kirk, that we cannot, because apparently he wants to come back. The Vikings would like to have him back, but they're not going to do it if it's not economic to them. So if he's willing to come back at a heavily reduced contract, then I guess it makes sense. But I would like us to go out there and get a Gardner Minshew as our bridge / starting quarterback. Probably can get him for around $10 million a year or so. And if not him, Jacoby Brissett. And then from there, do what we need to in the draft to get a quarterback. Jaden Daniels is my,
your star right now. That's your number 1.
That's the number 1 that I would want to move for, and that I think that we could make a move for. Drake May wouldn't be bad either, because Drake May is starting to take a little bit of a tumble, and I think that it's bullshit, but he's starting to take a little bit of a fall. If any one of those 2 makes it out of the top 3, you absolutely make a move. But other than that, making an aggressive move for pick number 3, I think, is still an option that's on the table, which is held by the Patriots. And if not that, unfortunately or fortunately, what's going to happen is the Vikings will take JJ McCarthy at pick number 11. JJ McCarthy is making
fucking gross
a meteoric rise to the fans.
Yeah.
But a lot of draft experts and analysts and stuff like that, guys who are actually tied in with the teams that haven't been talking about this draft stuff because it's still middle of the season, have come out and said all these pundits have it wrong, that McCarthy has everything that you're looking for, just doesn't have as much on tape because of Harbaugh's system, and that he's the like perfect developmental prospect quarterback, not a guy that you not necessarily want to start day 1, even though he could. But and honestly, I have come around on it. I do like McCarthy as a prospect now. 11 seems a little bit rich for me, but the problem is after pick 11, you've got 3 more teams that could use a quarterback. And in the Broncos, the Raiders, the Saints.
Somebody's making an aggressive move to move up, but you also have picks 1, 2, and 3 could all feasibly use a quarterback if the Bears don't take, if they dump Fields. So Fields is not going to go to you guys. There's no way that they're trading Fields within the division. Who else would make that move, though? Who else goes and gets a Justin Fields?
You have a lot of guys that are within striking distance right now. You have the Giants at 6 and the Falcons at 9. So right now, other than the top 3 teams in your quarterback, Giants at 6, Falcons at 9, Vikings at 11. Then you've got, and I'm going to get the order incorrect here, but I'm pretty sure it's Denver, Raiders, and Saints right after that. And then as you get into the later part of the draft, you have the Rams, the Seahawks, and the Buccaneers, who all three probably will have quarterbacks in-house, but absolutely need to look towards the future and developing guys.
I think Baker probably resigns, stays down in Tampa. Things worked out pretty well, makes the playoffs, wins a playoff game again. So I feel like Baker's probably going to resign there. But there was always that conversation like, will it work? Won't it work? Who's my offensive coordinator going to be? Because that matters to guys. I saw an interview the other day. I don't know how I missed it before, but it was Justin Jefferson. I believe it was on Radio Row being asked, what's the deal? What are we looking for in the contract? Is the extension coming? Are you excited about an extension? Will who is playing quarterback matter if you're signing an extension? And Justin did a great job of answering the question. Obviously, he wants to be well compensated. He feels like he's the best wide receiver in the league. I fucking agree with him. Like, he's gonna get paid, but he didn't come out and outright say, depends on who they're fucking playing at quarterback. He really said was, will it make a little bit different? Kirk's my guy. It's fun. But you know what? I went out there with 4 different quarterbacks last year, still put up 1,000 yards. And I was fucking hurt. So I don't really care who's slinging the pill as long as it's coming in my direction, because I'm good enough to win a route against anybody. The ball's just got to be close that I can catch it. So are you worried that who you bring in might affect the deal with Justin Jefferson?
Am I worried? No, but is it going to affect the deal with Justin Jefferson? For sure. I think that's one of the things that's holding up his contract right now is they want to see what the long-term future plan is for the team. And that circles around the quarterback. I don't know how you can pay Kirk and Justin at the contracts that they both require. That's one of the big problems, especially if you're having any thought about
fucking quarterback, like legit quarterback money.
Oh, 100%. He's going to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the league, and if it's not done before training camp, he won't report. That's Joey Bosa or is it Nick Bosa? No, I'm fucking up. Nick Bosa,
49ers,
like 35 mil per year average. The other question with Jefferson's contract right now, I believe, is the length. So it's not that the Vikings aren't willing to pay the money; it's that they want to. They both are kind of off on the length of contracts. I believe Justin Jefferson's camp actually wants his contract to be a little bit shorter, towards the 3-year versus 5 years that the Vikings want, which puts him like right at his age 26, 27 season where he's up for another contract. So, and honestly, cool. All right, let's do it. Let's get the guy locked down. I don't really care.
If you get him for 3 years and you get a quarterback in there that's working, who says you can't re-sign him again? It's smart for the player for sure. Now the team does not want a short-term deal. He's a fucking special talent and was going to be. If he hits the market again in 3 years, he's going to reset the market again.
Yeah. That's the thing, is that if you are going after a rookie quarterback this year, though, that's still doable. Because rookie quarterback, especially a first-round quarterback, you're going to get the 5th-year option. They're still going to be cheap. So you're able to sign Justin 3 years, then a 5-year deal for the rookie. By the time that you have to re-sign Justin, that rookie quarterback's deal still is not up, and you can start to maneuver the money when you do have to re-sign that quarterback going on in the future. But you'll also know whether or not that quarterback has worked out and whether or not you have to move on and try again. So there's a lot to that. That's why
I'll be back.
Yep. That's why I truly believe that a first-round quarterback is an absolute necessity for this team. But that being said, I'm actually on JJ McCarthy right now. The stuff that I've been watching, like, I've been doing a lot of heavy work with him because I've been personally so wishy-washy on, is he a first-round talent or not? Jim Harbaugh coming out and saying, oh yeah, like, I think he's a top quarterback in the draft and this and that and the other, which I think is absolutely bullish, and Jim pulling for his guy. But I think that there is still some credibility to that. You see McCarthy fitting his play style to Jim's system, not Jim's system switching around and working towards McCarthy's playmaking ability. The guy's got a above average arm, like pretty darn good arm. He's able to throw into tight windows. He's able to throw on the move. He's one of the best play action quarterbacks And a lot of that wasn't asked of him in McCarthy's system, but when he has done it, he's looked very good at doing it and playing a little bit off script. I have heard this a lot, especially a little more from Minnesota media guys and draft guys. He seems like a perfect fit for what Kevin O'Connell wants to do. He wants a quarterback that can throw the ball well, but is got the mobility. He doesn't have to be a running quarterback, but he's got the mobility to make things happen and move around in the pocket. And that does kind of excite me. I don't like the thought of having to give up such an early pick for him. If we get him in the second, I'd be ecstatic, but I don't think it's going to happen. There's talks now that McCarthy can go higher than pick 10 in the draft. And I think that's not just bullshit that's being thrown around by the league to change the market. I think that is actually the draft guys out there in NFL land wising up to what the NFL is already seeing and projecting out of this guy as a potential fit for him. So there's, Vikings picking at 11 makes a lot of sense that we could take him there. There's a potential that we might need to move up a little bit higher in order to get him, because some of those teams right behind us who want to make aggressive moves for a quarterback, they might be moving up into the top 10 in order to get him as well. And beyond that, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, those are the next two guys available that are potential quarterbacks. I don't like either of them in the first round, nor do I like either of them as long-term solutions at the quarterback position. If you're moving on from Kirk, you kind of need to have that idea of what you're doing laid out, and neither of those guys excite me. Spencer Rattler really showed out really well in the Senior Bowl and has probably raised his draft stock, and people think that he can be worked with now as well. But I don't want to put my eggs in that basket. And so if you're not getting a quarterback in the draft this year, you're kind of screwed, because next year's quarterback draft does not look to be good as of right now. And so you could kind of be put into a quarterback purgatory if you aren't making your move this year. And that's why I think a lot of teams, including my Vikings, are going to be very aggressive with trying to get the guy that they want. I am just like I was for Anthony Richardson last year, wanting to be very aggressive to go up and get a Jaden Daniels. But if we are able to walk away with the JJ McCarthy out of this draft, even at pick 11, I think I'm going to be okay with it. Because I'd rather us, at the end of the day, if the guy develops and he's your guy and he turns out to be a good quarterback, I don't give a fuck where they're drafted. You got your guy, and
doesn't matter.
All that matters. So
I apologize to everybody if you had to watch me go from a normal expression to being beat fucking red, not able to breathe. I also got some chloroseptic down here now as well. I'm going through it, everybody. I apologize, but I don't like JJ McCarthy. I hope you guys don't draft him. I'm going to tell you that, because I feel like you're really going to regret that. But I mean, it's not like I've been right about several quarterbacks in the last few years.
Yeah, that's
I have.
I am on him a little bit right now. Like I'm okay with it. I like some of the stuff that the breakdowns I've seen. I've been watching a little bit more JT O'Sullivan, who I definitely trust with this stuff. And he's kind of said the same
fucking
stuff.
Film breakdowns are so good.
Yeah, and you got to pay for him now.
You do?
If you're not already. He has the YouTube channel still.
Okay.
But the quarterback school is on Patreon to get access to a lot of his stuff, which I do because it's really good content. And the stuff that he's basically talked about JJ McCarthy is the same thing. He's like, I don't know why a lot of these people had him as a second round guy. He's like, he's just playing in a system that doesn't ask him to use his talents, but when he does get to use those talents and break away from the script a little bit, he looks really good at doing it. And that's JT O'Sullivan and his breakdowns are something that I do kind of trust. I don't know, man. Maybe it is you just being an Ohio State guy versus a Michigan guy too a little bit.
It absolutely could be. Now my track record the last couple of years has been fairly decent. Bryce Young should be the fourth quarterback drafted, not the number one. I was on Zach Wilson should not be drafted at all, but in our mock draft, he went 2. In real life, he went 2. I don't know, man. I'm going to have to go back and watch a lot more tape, apparently. From the things that I saw, I don't like him. I don't like his abilities.
The box score, definitely I don't like.
But I actually have to
box score.
I watched fairly amount. fairly decent amount of Michigan games, like because I pay attention to the Big Ten. I have Big Ten Network. I was very much looking forward to kicking their ass this year. That did not happen. It's just we're off on this one. It's okay, but I know for my team, quarterback it's already locked up. We already know who's starting. It's Deshaun Watson. He has to. There's no fucking way around it. Who's going to be the backup? That's where the big question is here in Cleveland. Is Joe Flacco resigning as the backup, knowing that he's the backup, or is Joe Flacco going to go out somewhere else, try to compete for a starting job? And if he does, where the fuck does that leave the Browns in terms of backups? Because we saw what happens when you don't have a competent backup. You have to depend on a really fucking good defense to win you games. And that is not a year in, year out thing that you can just guarantee is going to happen.
Yeah.
So we got to have a solid backup quarterback. And then, nope, this side. This guy right here, Mr. Nicholas Chubb. If he makes it back and is fairly decent, we'll be fine. If he returns and is Nick Chubb of old, this team is a for sure Super Bowl contender. Because you can win with like decent quarterback play. But that's what I want to see. I want to know who the fuck my backup quarterback is going to be. What is our thought process there? Are we getting a guy that's a similar system as what Deshaun runs? Or are we looking for just any warm body to throw in there? As long as it's not fucking Zach Wilson, I don't care. Because I have a feeling that Zach will be on the open market. I don't think anybody's trading for him.
Oh, do you want to go out and get a Garoppolo? Because he's going to be a free agent here pretty quick.
Well, Jimmy's also going to have to serve a suspension, though.
That's
for his.
That's why he's going to be a free agent, because that suspension allows them to cancel his contract.
Yeah. Jimmy, I don't know. Maybe Jimmy was like, man, you know what would be really cool? If I could throw the ball more than 35 yards. Let's get some fucking juice and some performance enhancers and actually be able to sling the ball down the field a little bit.
Hey, but you know what? He's played in cold weather there in New England before. He's a game manager.
He can go back to New England.
You guys hadn't, other than Flacco, hadn't had a whole lot of a passing attack. So,
but if you bring Jimmy G back to New England, you have Jimmy G.
Not to New England. I'm talking for you.
Oh, fuck no. No, thank you.
These are backup.
We don't need that kind of drama. We do not need any more goddamn drama in Cleveland. That's all that is right now, is a guy who is going to get cut because he was on performance enhancers and is going to be suspended. So who's your backup quarterback for the first few weeks? Well, then we're going to have to make another move to bring in another guy, Jimmy G. Like, I don't like that idea at all. Really, all I want to know is Nick Chubb going to make it fucking back? That's what I care about.
All right. Well,
there were people talking about cutting him, and I fucking hate those people.
Cutting Nick Chubb?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a reality of
it's a fiscally responsible thing probably to do, because you don't know how he's going to recover coming off a double knee surgery.
Yeah, it's tough. It is, and I know this from my time with Adrian Peterson and a whole bunch of these Vikings greats. It is tough to parse looking at the name on the back of the laundry versus the laundry itself, and that's really what matters. Is the laundry, that jersey. So it's a tough one. It's a tough ask, but we do move on. We grow and get better. But the last thing I'll say for my Vikings. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell were brought in on relatively short deals when they were first signed, 4-year deals. So if you look at the market this year, it was all 5-year and 6-year deals and stuff like that for the new head coaches and GMs and stuff like that. In order for them to extend their lifespan with the Vikings, to ensure it, they'll go after a quarterback this year in the draft in the first round. That is my prediction, is that they will. That they will move on from Kirk Cousins. If you bring Kirk Cousins back, you can't formulate a roster around him, and you are asking for some of the same kind of mediocre potential, maybe first round of the playoffs and out type of play at best. Whereas if you bring in a developmental quarterback, you have bought yourself probably a 3-year leash on top of what you already had expected. So they will be making that move. I'm calling that prediction right now. And number two, if the Vikings are to make one of those hyper aggressive move ups for a quarterback, talking top 3 picks, that trade will be done after the combine, but before free agency starts. Much akin to how the moves, up from the Panthers and stuff like that have happened in recent years. They want to have an idea of what is happening with their quarterback situation before free agency starts. So that way potential free agents will know what is going on. Guys like Justin Jefferson will know what is going on. And Kirk can move on. Other teams can be like, oh, wow, they just really want to move on from him type thing. And that could possibly affect his market. I think that both sides already know what is happening between Kirk Cousins and the Vikings, but it is beneficial for both of them not to make it public. Because it can hurt Kirk's market to say, oh, yeah, the team has already moved on from him. And it can hurt the Vikings market in the trade market to move up for picks if they look desperate. So
yeah,
I think that decision probably has already been made, but I would put the chances of Kirk Cousins coming back to the Vikings at about a 10% chance, personally. Could this be a rough next 3 to 5 years for me? Absolutely. But I am super excited that we are turning the page moving forward.
All right. Can you still see the internet?
Well, your audio is absolute dog shit, as is your video.
Great. That's fun.
It's the weather, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Once again, guys, we apologize for the technical difficulties. Fuck you, weather, snow, and Punxsutawney Phil.
Yeah. Well, let's pivot off of our teams and stuff. We've got the Super Bowl to go over, and maybe we just kind of call it a short week from there because we have, basically 2 months here going forward of NFL offseason stuff that we are going to, have to kind of spread things out, bring things down a little bit. We're going to get into a lot of stuff with draft prospects, but again, kind of the schedule here going forward for the NFL. Clubs can start designating those franchise tag players here on the 20th. So next week, it's the 17th as of right now. Then the 27th through the 4th of March, or 27th of February through the 4th of March, that is your NFL Scouting Combine out at Lucas Oil. And then the deadline for those franchise tags to be designated is March 5th, with March 11th being the opening of the legal tampering, and March 13th, new league year. All teams must be under the salary cap, and free agents can start signing. So we are literally less than less than a month from the opening of the league year, 2 months away from the NFL draft, and less than 2 weeks, a week and a half away from the scouting combine. So we got a lot of that shit coming up here pretty soon that we'll be getting, information to you guys and breakdowns of some of these players and thoughts of moves and things like that are happening. But we just had the Super Bowl this last weekend. So what are your thoughts on the Super Bowl, Mike?
It was a good game.
How do you feel about it?
I mean, it was a good game. It went the way I thought. I picked the Chiefs to win. Close game. Overtime did not see coming. But it was the matchups that I thought would be kind of the big deal. L'Jarius Sneed did a really, really good job. I mean, he's going to get fucking paid, and he said as much that's exactly what he's looking for this offseason is pay me, as he should be. I thought Brock played well, man. Like, people were talking about Brock, kind of blew this game. He really fucking well, but pressure was getting to him. Spagnuolo did a great job of drawing up pressures and getting to him and kind of forcing the ball out of his hands, making error outside. Like, he didn't put the ball in harm's way, which I thought he would. Christian McCaffrey was able to tote the rock the way we thought he could. But Pat Mahomes is fucking Pat Mahomes, man. He's so hard to do anything against. He throws for 330 yards, sure throws a pick, but picks up an additional 66 yards with his legs. He is do everything, be everything, and he was. I thought the sideline change. Can you not hear me, Brochacho?
It's pretty bad.
Oh man, I'm sorry. I don't know what is happening here.
It's pretty bad.
Fucking internet. All right. Well, you tell me what you thought.
Yeah, look, like you said, it was a good game. It was cool that we got an extra quarter of play, essentially the full quarter of play of football, than we were guaranteed to have. Um, Again, like you said, Brock Purdy, I thought played really well. If you had asked me, were the Chiefs going to win the game by halftime, I'd say no. It looked like the 49ers were very dominant, especially through the first half of the game. Brock Purdy played fantastic. It was penalties and little hiccups and stuff like that on an otherwise really good performance from the 49ers in the first half that prevented them from getting scores on the board. Like that, they probably could have had 2 to 3, scores, if not touchdowns, through that first half. That just didn't happen because of penalties and things like that, which, disappointing. Um, and that's really what gave the Chiefs the opportunity for a comeback there in the second half. The fact that the score did not have that wide of a delta for them to overcome and make that return. And then when you put the ball in Patrick Mahomes' hands, late in the game like that, he is the best in the NFL right now, if not the best ever, to have these sorts of comebacks. It's you just know that, like, okay, if he has an opportunity, he is like 95% of the time going to be able to make good on that opportunity to come back. Um, I made mention to my girl while we were watching the game. I was like, well, they just scored. They're within a score. The Chiefs are probably going to win this game now, even though they're, not winning. I was like, the momentum has switched. Mahomes has the ball in his hands, and there's not a whole lot that you can do as a defensive coordinator or anything in order to combat that. Like, not you could have the best defensive coordinator in the league out there. They're going to have difficulty with this. Not that Steve Wilkes is or was a great defensive coordinator for this team, and that's why he no longer has a job. But uh, there's no one that's really been able to come up with a way to combat Patrick Mahomes and that extra intangible of just being able to win games late.
All right. Well, hey, we got a call coming in from our
yeah.
boy Joe Rockstar. By the way, is my audio better?
No.
Fuck. Joe Rockstar, can you hear us?
I hear you.
Devo?
I'm here. I hear him.
All right, guys. Happy end of the season.
Happy end of the season.
I want to call in
you as well.
I had to be a stand-up guy and show up after my team wins the Super Bowl. I just wanted to put in. Okay, that was horrible. That was hard. That's hard to stomach, man. But I called it. I don't know if you guys noticed, but they were getting free rushers left and right with no hot answers for Purdy. I agree that Purdy had a decent game, but he was doing stuff that he doesn't normally do. I wasn't really kind of excited about how he performed. I mean, I think he handled the pressure well. His first Super Bowl, that's all fine. But what it's really making my skin crawl is hearing all this props to Mahomes. Mahomes did not have a good game. He didn't really have as great of a game as everybody makes it out to be. He got the ball in overtime. You knew he was going to score a touchdown. I'm not one of those people who wants to get into I've had enough of the ref thing, but there was a lot of holding on that drive. There's a lot of bullshit calls. We got a holding call, and the team that gets the most holding in all season doesn't get one. That's kind of shitty. So I don't know, but I mean, I think we lost because McCaffrey fumbled the ball. I think we lost because we missed an extra point. I think we lost because we had some bad defensive calls in that last drive. So this is a slice of, this is like a big pizza of blame that goes around for everybody. And what makes me really upset is you got so many San Francisco 49er fans, they want to fire Kyle Shanahan, or they want to get rid of Brock Purdy, or they want to pin it on the guy who muffed picking up the punt that went off of somebody else's leg. I mean, there's so many reasons why this went wrong, and it's not really fair to pin it on just one person. The entire team as a whole failed. And I think there's something seriously wrong with our society where we get so much freaking anxiety from sports that we're acting like a bunch of idiots, can't take an L, with some grace. It's ridiculous. But as far as the game went, I think if you play that game 3 or 4 more times, the Niners win 3 or 4 more times. That's just how I feel about it. And unfortunately, football is not like basketball or baseball where you get a series. You get one game and that's it.
Now, Joe, I have a question for you. And Eva, I was going to ask you the question as well. And can you guys both hear me fairly decent?
I can make
hear
out
you
what you're
fine.
saying.
Decision to take the ball is going to be ridiculed probably for a very long time because of the new overtime rules. Are you upset, thoroughly discussed, and if we go to overtime, I believe you definitely want the ball second because everybody gets the ball now.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm not really super upset with that. Honestly, I think it could have been handled better. I agree with that, but the fact that we were even in overtime at that point was kind of irritating to me. We had an opportunity to go ahead and take a touchdown, and it would have changed the way that the Chiefs finished out their last drive. But my issues are with the lack of preparedness for, like I was talking about earlier, when you run those condensed formations of the 49ers, and that Kansas City is going to be sending the rush. They're going to rush, and they're going to blitz, and they're going to send somebody from somewhere, and you don't have reasonable hot reads for Purdy to go to, and you're not willing to go for it or you should. Those kind of things bother me. I know he did it once. And then the lack of use of people like Kittle, you knew Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey were going to be the show, and they were. I don't care if the other team knows we're going to Kittle. We can do the same thing. I don't think that Kelsey is that much of a better tight end like most people do than Kittle is. I think that we just don't use Kittle the same way that they used Kelsey. Kelsey's almost 75% of their offense probably. You know what I mean? Anyways, I think there's some calls that all the way around are bad. Do I think that we couldn't have won it? No, of course not. Do I think we should fire the coach that's gotten us into contention to go to a Super Bowl or in the Super Bowl over the last, I don't know, so many years now? What is it, 5-6 years now? 5 years? We have one bad season? I mean, this is crazy. It's crazy to talk like that.
Are there people in 49ers Nation that are getting rid of Shanahan over this?
Oh my God. You don't. So I was actually wondering how your guys' fan bases are, because I don't obviously spend a lot of time on your fan base. Our fan base is horrible. I hate 49er fans. I'm a 49er fan who can't stand my own fan base. It's annoying. It's horrible. It's anxiety of society right now. I was telling my wife, this is depressing, because it's not just sports. I mean, it's not just politics or whatever. It's sports. There's so much freaking tribalism. And then that tribalism just breaks down. You think that the 49ers fans would be a tribe together, but they're not. That breaks down into little factions that fight each other over, should we have gotten rid of Trey Lance? It's racist not to get rid of a black quarterback for a white quarterback. I mean, that kind of stuff's going on. And then you have fire Shanahan. Oh, he used Wilkes as a scapegoat. And you have people that are blaming individual players on one or two plays during the game when, like I said earlier, there's enough blame to go around on probably every player on the field,
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Go ahead, Evo.
So yeah. I just can't get mad over making the wrong call at overtime. I just feel like we shouldn't have even been in overtime. Do I think they should have been better prepared for that? Yeah. Do I think that that they didn't or they weren't prepared for it? No, I think people are way out of proportion. I think Shanahan has his way of freaking doing things. I think he truly believed that he would score a touchdown. I don't think he felt like he was having a lot of trouble moving the ball. I think he thought he would have scored a touchdown. Pat would have came back down and scored a touchdown, and then we would have got the ball when it's sudden death. I think he firmly believed he was going to get a TD, then they were going to get a TD, and then it was sudden death.
Yeah, in my opinion, the right move is to get the ball second in that overtime. That being said, I'm not upset about the call that they made with it at all, because if you go down and you score a touchdown, you've increased the amount of pressure that you're putting on the Chiefs. That can change their play calling. That can change the way their players play. That's having confidence in your offense and being able to go down and score. If that's the way that the 49ers wanted to attack it, like I have no problem with it. I think statistically it would probably bear out best though to get the ball second. But more than likely. I mean, it's the same
Probably
thing with
because
the
you have the
Dan.
extra. You know you have to go for it on fourth
Yeah,
down.
well, that's
Yeah, it's the same
know
thing with
what
Dan
scenario
Campbell
you
though.
have to do.
It's how
You
aggressive.
have to go for it. You have to score a touchdown. And then if you do that, you finally get to make that decision. Do we win the game right now, or do we lose the game right now, or do we go into a sudden death? That's the reason I like taking the
And
ball.
let's be real, man. We had them at a fourth down. You know, we had chances to stop them from scoring that touchdown. It's just obviously it didn't happen. Like we totally blew it.
Yeah. And then as far as the fire Shanahan stuff and the fan bases, you're not alone in your fan base kind of being like that. That is a societal thing, in my opinion, right now. We are so used to immediate gratification. We have our cell phones, we get answers right away on them. We are able to get this immediate gratification for things. And when you don't get that immediate gratification, you expect immediate change. And it's just not like that. Especially in the NFL where things need to develop. Like you have to develop players and trust processes and stuff like that. The Vikings have the same situation where we're just finishing with year 2 of Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, and we went from having a 13-4 season last year to a losing season this year, and now everyone's calling for their heads, or at least the loud minority is calling for their heads. Whereas you're talking about guys that are just finishing their second tenure. This was their first real season with their guys and their roster that they're trying to develop, and you want to cancel it from the get-go when it could be a good thing going forward. You just don't know. You guys have had a lot longer of a run here with Shanahan and have had really good results, and to want to punt on that is a silly thing for the fan base to get behind. But it's probably, again, that loud minority that is shaking the tree rather than the true fans that are like, hey, this is, like you kind of broke out, we've got Z reasons why we made mistakes and these things happen, but it's not time to throw the baby out with the bathwater type thing. Like it's time to retool and re-engage and fix those issues and still be a very, very good roster going forward with a good coaching group. But yeah, it's not any different.
Not just your fan base.
It's all the fan bases. You have a lot of fly by night fans that just they don't really know the ins and outs of what's happening. It's kind of why I did a lot of that off-season review of each of the divisions, is because I see it all the time in the forums, and I was one of those guys initially when I was starting to talk about off seasons for my team, is like, oh, we should go out and sign this guy because he's going to be a free agent. Well, it doesn't just work like that. You've got cap space to work with. We should fire this guy or hire this guy or draft this guy. Like they're just automatically going to be available. And it's because you don't have a deeper understanding knowledge of how the NFL works and how the offseason works and how front office works, cap space, and not to mention just schematic fits with teams. So it's easy for a lot of those fans who are they've got Madden and they can manipulate the franchise in Madden with free agents and trades and things like that are unrealistic, and they expect the same thing to happen in the NFL. It just doesn't work like that.
And I'm like, well, you got to get to the big game, and you need a coach and a team that can get you there. All right, maybe he's 0-3 in the big game, but I mean, are you just discounting the game a team plays? Oh, if it's worth. I mean, as a football fan for a long time, I'm a little bit in our group. Every year, right? And there's teams that haven't even been there, and I don't mean I'm not trying to throw shade. There's teams that haven't even had the opportunity to compete in the Super Bowl. You don't just make like crazy changes, just because the Super Bowl. It's just stupid. It's silly. It's ridiculous.
Whew. Wow. And you got to get there. I wouldn't call Shanahan on 3. I wouldn't, because one of those, he was an offensive coordinator. It doesn't follow him. I've never heard of an offensive coordinator taking a loss for a Super Bowl before. But I'll tell you that when...
I mean, law of averages, even if he's doing something that's causing him to not win in Super Bowls, you know, even if we can lay that 1-3 on him, eventually he's going to win. He keeps getting there, he's going to win. The law of averages, man.
All right, Joe. Oh, hey, brother, we're going to let you go because my connection sucks today because it is snowing out here. My audio is terrible, and apparently yours is coming through as well like that. So we're going to let you go, brother. Appreciate the call in.
All right. Hey, thanks for hearing me out. Talk
Absolutely,
to you later.
Man.
Bye.
Bye. Oh. Well, Evo, you want to fucking wrap this thing up, bro? Because test.
Yeah. So I'm just I can barely hear you right now. I heard the wrap it up part. So we'll go ahead and do that. Congratulations to the Chiefs on the Super Bowl. Joe did make a comment about the officiating. In general, yes, were there a lot of missed calls? Sure. But I thought it was one of the better officiated games of the year, just because they let the guys play a little bit more. In some cases, that let them play with penalties happening and not being called. That's a whole nother discussion, though, because I mean, we could spend an entire show just on officiating like we have in the past. But NFL season is over. The Chiefs are your Super Bowl champions. Hopefully Taylor Swift doesn't get a Super Bowl ring. But I guess we'll go ahead and wrap the show up because we're having those technical difficulties. Either way, looking forward.
If you can't hear me, I can't tell because it looks fine on my end. So, all right, wrap it up.
Yeah. For the future, for the next couple months, Mike and I will be looking at other sports and stuff like that. We've got UFC tonight. We've got NBA All-Star Game coming up. Not sure that we'll really get into a ton of that, especially not today. But we are going to be still doing our deep dive into the NFL offseason. We have the Divisional Outlook series that I did that is wrapped up. You can go ahead and check that out, and let me know what you think about each of those teams, what teams should do, and what you would want to happen with your team. We are still going to be coming out with the shorts and reels and everything of our content out on all the different social media platforms. But again, we have the scouting combine coming up here in less than 2 weeks. We have free agency happening in just about a month. We're going to be breaking down into each of the drafts categories of positions: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, so on and so forth, giving you guys that we like, thoughts on players, guys that your team could be looking at drafting, so that way you're not going into the draft completely blind. And we're going to break that up on a weekly basis in order to allow you guys to have it be a little bit of an easier thing to digest. And you can kind of start to formulate your own opinions and get on YouTube and start watching film from these guys. But until then, I'm Evo. This is Mike. This is the Lineman Lounge. We have technical difficulties sometimes, but we're still going to make it happen. Please check us out on all the social media platforms. Give us a like, subscribe, share us to your friends, anyone that you think that might like our content. And with that, we will see you again here in the near future. Hopefully technical difficulties won't be a part of the show much longer.
Agreed.
See ya.